Good evening. Welcome to the second episode of The Monsters Within. Now, before I start, I want to just say that this is a safe space. There's no fear or anxiety, no commitment. Don't worry if you don't get through the whole podcast. You can pick it up or you can just leave it. No worries. Now, I wanted to talk to you guys today about different kinds of depression. And I know you're probably wondering, there's different types of depression. That's what we're going to talk about this evening. Now, with the two different kinds of depression that we're going to talk about today, I want you to keep in mind that both are completely valid emotions. No one is less than the other, and neither of them are less dangerous. And if you guys are feeling like you're having a really rough night, call someone. There's hotlines out there, and I'll put a link down in the description for those hotlines. Let's get into it. So the first one I want to talk to you guys today about is situational depression. That one's kind of self-explanatory. Situational depression, otherwise known as emotional depression. Now, what is situational depression? Well, it's when something really massive has happened in a person's life, such as divorce, loss of a job, death of a loved one, serious accidents, or other really big changes in your life. These are the things that cause situational depression. Those big stressful changes alter all sorts of chemicals in the body and cause you, as the person, to feel that emotion. Now, symptoms of situational depression mirror the symptoms of the other depression we're going to be getting into tonight. Now, you'll feel listless. You'll have that feeling of hopelessness. You'll have difficulty sleeping, or maybe you'll sleep too much. You'll have frequent episodes of crying, unfocused, anxiety, and worry, less concentration. You'll withdraw from normal activities, and you'll have suicidal thoughts. Now, I want you to realize that everybody's situational depression is different. Some people will experience oversleeping, loss of appetite, loss of pleasure in activities that they love to do. Maybe they'll withdraw, while other people will feel hopeless, like there's no point in going on. All these are valid emotions, and I want you to stop for a second and take stock of that. That is valid. Everything that you're feeling, everything that you've felt, it's a part of being a human being. Now, some people think, well, there's got to be a time expectancy. Like, how long am I going to be dealing with this? How long do I have to continue to experience these feelings in order for me to just stop feeling them? That's the wrong way of thinking. The only timeline that there is for your situational depression is however long it takes you to come to terms with those major changes. Because once you accept that those changes have happened, you can move forward. Now, everybody's timeline is different. Some people could be a couple weeks, somebody else could be months, years. It all depends on how you cope with the situation and what you do proactively to deal with it. I don't want to spend too much time on situational depression. It's not the main source of our topic tonight. So, without further ado, let's get into the second type of depression, which is otherwise known as clinical depression or chemical. Okay, so what is chemical depression? Chemical depression is, in many ways, severe. Clinical depression is something that happens in the brain. You have these hormones in your body. Some to note is that dopamine, which controls those happy, serotonin, and chemicals like this are fired along neurotransmitters. Now, when it comes to somebody who has clinical depression, it's not that they don't have more or less of one chemical, it's just somehow a misfire. That doesn't mean anything as to making you less of a human being. You are very much a human being. You're just wired differently. So, what causes clinical depression? Well, certain chemicals cause depression, like I said, serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine, along with the neurotransmitters. But there's also the possibility of a genetic factor. Now, if you're sitting here tonight listening to this podcast and you suffer from clinical depression, think about your family. Because if somebody else in your family has been diagnosed with chronic clinical depression, that's a genetic factor. And maybe this is something you want to talk to a psychologist or a doctor about. I'm not saying that this is the telltale sign that you're going to get it. I have depression, mine is clinical, but so far my daughter, who comes from me, shares my genetics, has not shown any signs of just that, clinical depression. So don't automatically just jump the gun. Sit down, evaluate your situation, and move forward. And I'm going to be touching on that in a little bit about the diagnosis. So, major events are another really big factor to clinical depression, but they're more of a side effect. So, major events may cause you to have a spike in a behavior or a mood, and those can trigger the already pre-existing chemical depression. And I'm going to be switching off a lot between clinical and chemical, but they're both the same thing. Drug and alcohol is a really big factor in it because you've got a depressant in alcohol and you've got a antidepressant in drugs, depending on the drug. So keep that in mind. So, like I said earlier, a lot of these same symptoms of situational depression come into play with clinical depression. You could be depressed or constantly irritable, significant reduce in interest. There's no pleasure in the activities that you once loved. Significant weight loss or gain. You may be having more of an appetite and doing less exercise in order to counteract all that extra food that you're putting into your body, or you're eating less and you're exercising more as a coping skill, therefore you're hurting your body. There is a healthy balance. There's going to be like I said, a decrease or a gain in appetite. The insomnia could be a really big thing for you. I know I suffer from it. I'm recording this at 12 o'clock in the morning. Or you could have the desire to sleep all the time because you just can't handle the day-to-day pressures that you have to deal with. You'll get restless, or you'll have slowed behavior, something that other people will notice. You'll have inappropriate guilt or feelings of worthlessness, trouble making decisions or concentrating, and suicidal thoughts. Now, suicidal thoughts, that's a big one. That's a really big one because this is a situation that we deal with in our country. It's one of the biggest situations that we deal with in our country besides cancer and heart problems. Listen to me, there's help out there. There's help out there, and you're in the right place. So keep chugging along, and like I said earlier, I will put the number for the hotline down in the description. So, clinical depression, what's the timeline? There is no timeline. There is no fixing it. Clinical diagnosed depression is a long-term issue. It's a long-term treatment plan. There is no one cure-all. Find yourself some good coping skills. Get yourself into a healthy place physically and get those support groups. Build those support systems. Because whether we like it or not, you're in for the long haul. Medication, a lot of people go that route. I urge you to do your research on your medications. Don't just let the doctor say, hey, this is what you need, and trust that they are putting you in the right place. Because a lot of issues nowadays are that doctors are misdiagnosing, or they're just not seeing the symptoms, and they'll just say, this is what you need. But also have a certain amount of trust, because the dosage of the medication might not be enough, or maybe it's too much. You have to give them some leeway. You have to understand that this is a process. I've been on medication. I've done that route. And for me, it didn't work. But for you, it just might. So what's there to lose if you try that route and it doesn't work for you? At least you tried. Counseling with clinical is a good idea. Again, with the medication, counseling may not be the right choice for you. And I'll talk to you guys about a really useful tool that I've found at the end of this video. So hold off until then. It might be time to start looking at your lifestyle for clinical depression. I know, that's hard. That's hard to look at and say, these are the things that I need to change, and finding the motivation to do just that. Eating habits. Sugars are, I can't stress this enough, sugars are some major heavy hitters for people with depression. Eat the right foods, exercise, find those healthy coping skills. Those are going to be your tools to fall back on. You're depressed and you can't shake the feeling. You have 5 seconds in your brain that before it stops you from making any decision, you have that 5 seconds. If you can capitalize on that 5 seconds to find the motivation to get up, go exercise, go eat, go do something you actually enjoy, capitalize on it, move forward, and you are going to find that it's so helpful. Find a good sleeping habit. Try apps. Try oils. Try doing a turkey sandwich right before bed. There's melatonin, which is the major factor that we have in our bodies that helps induce sleep. Try lavender. It's very calming. There are a lot of little home remedies out there that might just work for you. And I know it sounds silly. Why would I do that? Why would I try these home remedies? They're not going to work. How do you know? You haven't tried them yet. Let's get into treatment. And I know I've already kind of pushed on this as it is, but let's just do an overview of both. So we've got situational depression. You have the grace of time when it comes to situational depression. The situation might improve, or you've learned to cope with that situation and therefore move on and adapt. These are some of the best things that you can do, but you can also get counseling, even if it's short term, or talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your loved ones, or maybe talk to somebody outside of the situation. Now, moving over to clinical. I'm sorry, again, this is a long-term management. There is no cure. But with the right long-term plan, it can make a big difference and you can almost feel normal again. Some people even feel normal once they've gotten that routine, that set lifestyle change that works for them. And my changes may not work for you. It's up to you to go out there and do your research and find them. Medication, we've already talked about this. And again, getting help from a psychiatrist. Now, a lot of them share common factors like counseling, lifestyle changes, exercise, diet, sleeping habits, support groups, and hobbies. The point that I'm trying to make here today is that no matter what, either it's emotional depression or it's chemical depression, they are both very similar, and no matter what group that you're looking for to help you cope with what's going on in your life, that support is going to be there. I mean, you're here, aren't you? You're listening to me ramble on about clinical depression and transmitters and hormones. So you're in the right place. Keep going, because you're going to get through this. Now, with all that said, I hope that this topic was enlightening and that you found some enjoyment in it. Just remember that this is a safe space, and if you need somebody to talk to, I've got an Instagram and a Facebook, along with the comments down on YouTube. Get a hold of me. You can even use the email address. It's themonsterswithin@gmail.com. I'm here to talk. So, I was telling you guys last episode about an amazing little app called Youper. Well, me and Youper have teamed up to give you a gift of a little AI pocket therapist who customizes your experience with them and helps you walk through what you're going through. Now, about 80% of the customers who use it on the first try feel better at the end of their conversations. Now, down in the link below, I'm going to put that referral code there for you. And I want you to understand that this is absolutely free. I would not suggest this if it was not absolutely free. I'm a single mother. I can't afford some overpriced therapy app. We just don't have that kind of money these days. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking to you guys about depression and birth control. So, ladies, listen up, because we need to start bringing this to our healthcare. We need to start making them aware that these studies need to be made. There's so little information out there, but we're going to do what we can, and maybe, just maybe, somebody will hear us and they'll get that ball rolling. Now, without further ado, I bid you good night.